The number printed on your fishing line is probably a lie. That spool that says 20-pound test, it might snap at 14, or it might hold 30. The one thing it almost never does is break at exactly the number on the label. So we did the thing the tackle industry hopes you never do. We took 11 of the most popular fishing lines in America, from Walmart, from Bass Pro, from Amazon, and from 8 other stores, and we put every one of them through the 3 tests that actually decide whether a line lands your fish or loses it. Most of them failed. Only 2 survived all 3. And the 2 that survived are not the 2 you would guess, and definitely not the 2 that cost the most. Before we get into it, do me a favor. Drop a comment with the line on your reel right now and the number printed on the spool, and I will tell you straight whether that number is honest. No sponsor, no brand worship. If you want every price and every test this channel has ever verified in one honest place, my guide, the logo tax, is linked in the description and the pinned comment. Now, hit subscribe because this channel does this exact homework every single week. Let's get to the bench. First, the method, because a test only means something if the rules are clear. We pulled every verified independent break test, knot test, and abrasion test we could find on these lines, the kind done on a calibrated force gauge, not guessed at. And we judged each line on the only 3 things that matter on the water. Test 1, straight pull. Does the line actually hold the pounds printed on the spool? Test 2, knot strength, because your line does not break in the middle, it breaks at the knot. So a line that pulls strong but knots weak is useless. And test 3, abrasion, because a fish does not fight you in open water, it drags you into rocks, docks, and timber. To survive, a line had to pass all 3. Fail even one, and it is out. Now here's the truth that runs under this entire test. The number on the spool is marketing, not physics. On the gauge, most monofilament actually tests over its rating, which is good. Braid is usually underrated on purpose. A 15-pound braid often pulls 20 to 30, partly as a safety margin and partly so it qualifies for record claims. But, and this is the whole video, some lines break under their rating. In one big magazine test of 30-pound lines, most held over 30, but several snapped at under 27. Those are the lines that cost you the fish of the year, because you set your drag trusting a number that was never real. And while we are here, let me clear up what those numbers on the spool even mean, because most people read them wrong. Pound test is supposed to be the breaking strength, but as we just said, brands are all over the map on how honest that is. Diameter, the millimeter number, is the one that never lies. It is physics, and it is why a thick, cheap braid labeled 40 can actually be weaker than a thin premium braid labeled 30. And if you ever see the letters IGFA on a spool, that is a class-rated line, guaranteed to break under the number so it qualifies for world records, the opposite of what you would assume. So the rule is simple. Trust the diameter, be suspicious of the pound test, and never, ever set your drag by faith. Let's start with the failures, because that is where the money gets wasted. And the first thing that shocked us, the store did not matter. Walmart had failures. Bass Pro had failures. Amazon had failures. Price did not save a single line. The biggest category of failure was fluorocarbon. Cheap fluoro, like the budget spools that hang everywhere for around $9, has a real problem. The marketing never mentions. Fluorocarbon is stiff and brittle, and it has the weakest knot strength of the 3 line types by a wide margin. On the straight pull, it was fine, but the moment we tested it at the knot, it let go early, again and again. It is not that fluoro is useless. It is a fantastic, invisible leader. But as your main line, Trusting a cheap fluoro knot is how you watch a good fish swim away with your hook in its mouth. Then came the surprise that hurt a little, because it is a line a lot of you love, and honestly, a line I have praised: the budget braids. Here is the honest result. Some of the cheap braid is genuinely excellent on abrasion. It grinds against structure and just does not care. But on the raw straight pull, one independent test of a popular budget braid rated at 40 pounds could not get it over about 25 pounds of actual break strength across multiple pulls. And that same braid runs noticeably thicker than the premium stuff at the same rating. So the label says 40, the diameter fishes like 30, and the gauge says 25. Now, is it still a good value line? For abrasion and for the price, absolutely. But it failed the one test this video is about. It did not hold its number, and a line that does not hold its number cannot survive this bench. A few more went down the same way. A couple of mid-priced monofilaments that snapped just under their rating on the pull, and worse, stretched so much on the way there that you would never feel a light bite through them. A line so soft, it is basically a rubber band with a hook on the end. A no-name generic spool from the bargain bin that failed everything. No surprise there. And here's the one that really makes the point. A premium spool, yes, an expensive one from the glass case, that pulled strong on the straight test, but then frayed and failed on abrasion faster than lines a third of its price. It looked beautiful on the shelf and gave up the second it touched a rock. That is the logo tax in one snapped line. 11 lines went onto the bench. 9 of them failed at least one test, which brings us to the 2 that did not. Quick word, because this is exactly the turn. If this bench test is the kind of honest homework you want more of, hit subscribe. No sponsors, no brand deals, just the real number on gear every single week. And it genuinely keeps this channel alive. Now the only 2 survivors. Survivor number 1 is a monofilament. It costs about $12. It hangs on the cheap rack at Walmart, and it embarrassed lines costing 3 times more. Berkeley Trilene Big Game. On the straight pull, this line does not just hold its rating, it blows past it. In independent gauge tests, the 8-pound broke at 12, the 10-pound broke at 14, and the 15-pound averaged over 22 pounds of actual break strength. Read that again. A line labeled 15 holding 22. Then the knot test, where most lines die. Big Game held around 95% of its strength through a Palomar knot, which is elite, better than lines that cost a fortune. And on abrasion, this thick, tough nylon just grinds and keeps going. It is the line Charter Guides buy by the case, and now you know why. $12, and it passed all 3 without blinking. Survivor number 2 is a braid, and here is the honest part. It is not the cheapest braid, and it is not the most expensive. It is the one that simply holds true. Power Pro, around $22. On the straight pull it tests at or above its rating. Thin diameter for real casting distance. And unlike the budget braid that came in thick and under strength, Power Pro gives you the number it promises. Its knots hold, and it cuts through abrasion like the premium fiber it is. It is the braid that serious anglers have quietly compared everything else to for 20 years. And on this bench, it earned it. So look at what survived. One line that costs $12 and one that costs $22. Not the flashiest spool, not the most expensive fluoro in the glass case, not the trendiest budget braid with the loudest marketing. The 2 lines that actually held their number were a cheap Walmart mono and a mid-priced braid. Survival did not track price at all. It never does. So here is the uncomfortable question. If the 20-pound line in the glass case snaps at 17 and the $12 Big Game holds 22, what exactly is the number on that expensive spool worth? It is not a promise. It is a suggestion, written by the marketing department, and the only honest test of it is the fish. A fish does not read the label. It pulls, and either the line holds or it does not. The gauge does not care about the logo, and neither should you. If it were my money, after this test, it is simple. For anything that pulls hard, catfish, surf, big bass, inshore, I am running Berkeley Trilene Big Game, and I am sleeping fine, because I know it holds more than it says. When I want braid for feel and casting distance, I am spooling Power Pro, because it gives me the real number, not a hopeful one. 2 lines, both survivors, both sitting on a shelf near you right now for a fraction of what the glass case charges. And here's a free test you can run tonight. No gauge required. Tie your line to a hook. Hook it to a cheap luggage scale, the kind that costs a few dollars, and pull it slow until it breaks. Watch the number where it lets go. If it snaps way under the label, you just found out the hard way. At home, on your kitchen floor, instead of on the water with the giant of the season on the line. Do it once, and you will never fully trust a spool again. And that is a good thing. 2 more free tips that beat any premium line. Wet every knot before you cinch it, because a dry knot heats up and burns itself weak as it tightens. And retie after every serious fish and every snag, because remember the golden rule of this whole test. Your line almost never breaks in the middle. It breaks at the knot you got lazy on, and at the nick you did not check. 30 seconds of retying lands more big fish than any upgrade on the wall. Now I want to hear from you. What line has snapped on you at the worst possible moment? And what did the spool claim it could hold? Drop it in the comments, because real breakoffs from real fishermen tell the truth better than any label ever printed. If this saved you a heartbreak, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps. And next time, the cheap Walmart reels that turn one of these survivor spools into a complete combo for under $100. I'll see you there.